The aim of this lesson is to improve your stamina, strength, speed, accuracy, control, touch, all of the things you need to have really good fingerstyle technique on bass. I've got a few exercises and I'm going to start with the first one and just explain a few things as we go. So we have a C on the 3rd fret of the A string and some 8th notes and 16th notes. First of all, I'm not going to play with a metronome. I'm going to do it quite slow. Even without a metronome, I'm trying to keep in time and I'm trying to tap my foot. So this is the first thing. Do not play too fast. You need to find the tempo that you're comfortable with, and if you want to increase your speed, you have to work from that. If you play material and bass lines that are too hard, you might be tripping yourself up a little bit. But that said, we will just have a little look at the technique. With the fretting hand, it's just one note. So I've got my finger quite curled. I'm not pressing very hard into the fretboard. My thumb is roughly behind the 2nd finger. And that's really what it is there. You don't want to play next to that fret, right behind this fret, so you've got a nice tone. Do not press down harder than you need to. This exercise is all about the plucking hand, which is just playing index, middle, index, middle. If you find it's more secure for you to play with a strap on your bass, then do that. But if you can see here, I've got the bass contacting my leg while sitting down. My body and my wrist is just touching the top of the bass here. So it's really important that your fretting hand is just free to move wherever it needs to. Do not grab the neck at all. And I'm either resting on the pickup on this Music Man, it's all the way back here, or if I want to play somewhere towards the front, I'll rest on the E string, and if I'm playing that, I'll almost just sort of float there. I'm really anchoring here, but anchoring is something you need. Now, this is just basic technique, and it's just getting your mechanics down. So everyone's going to have a slightly different way of playing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can only build good technique and good speed up from decent mechanics. So if you're feeling any pain, if your wrist is too bent, if your fingers are too curled, if your plucking hand fingers are too curled, then it's going to be slightly inefficient. Talking about those plucking hand fingers, not too straight and not too curled, somewhere in the middle. And you're looking for relaxation in both hands and in yourself. Make sure you breathe properly as you play. You can sometimes get a bit uptight, especially if you're very keen to play fast. Let's look at the same exercise, but we're moving to an open string A now. So without the metronome again. Even just this simple exercise, you need to time the release of the note of the C. I do have a metronome set to 120 beats per minute. I'll put that on now. And first I'll play at 60 beats per minute, so I'll play at half the speed, and then I'll play at 120 beats per minute. If that's too fast for you, then all you have to do is just find the tempo at which you can play comfortably and you're not experiencing any pain and it all feels good. That's your benchmark. If you're frustrated at the moment that you can't play faster than whatever your level is, then maybe you just actually need to strip things back a bit and just go back to basics and slow everything down. Right, here's another exercise without the metronome. We're using a bit more coordination between the hands here. Slowly, it's this. So it's just using the first 3 fingers. C, E, F, F sharp. That's the first 3 frets of the E string. And then it's open A all the way to the 3rd fret of the A string. With the plucking hand, I'm starting with my middle and just index middle after that all the way. Now you can use your little finger there because it lessens the stretch between your first finger and the third fret. Let's listen to that with the metronome. Now, going back to that metronome, if it's uncomfortable to play with a metronome or you're not quite there with it, just ignore it. Don't use it. You just slow down, you find the tempo that's comfortable, and you're listening out for just any speeding up, slowing down, anything like that. Recording yourself is a good thing, actually. You can really focus in on that when you're listening back. It's all about coordination here, especially going from an open string to a fretted note. The next one, we've got octaves, which we're working on dexterity and accuracy. So the first one is a C. And I'm using my first finger and little finger for the notes there, the two Cs. And the index followed by the middle. And there's a string skip there. We'll talk a little bit about note length after I show you how it goes. Eighth notes all the way, apart from 2/16ths at the end. So it's index middle all the way, and that last figure is index, and then I'm doing index middle. The reason being, the longer second finger or middle finger reaches that G string easier than the index. So if you go index middle at the end, your index is ready to play the first C again. Now, note length. This is controlled by both hands, but in this case, where this is kind of quite fast, it's really all about the fretting hand here. So experiment with playing them long like this. And for that, I'm just pressing down into the frets, both the third on the A and the fifth on the G, and not releasing at all. Now, I guess this is a bit disco-y, bit funky. You could do a long short, or a short long, or both short. And in that case, to shorten the note, it's just a case of fretting it, plucking it, and then releasing. And actually there I'm also touching with a fretting hand finger, and that note is stopping now. In this case, I'm just releasing with each finger here. And muting a little bit with these other two fingers. Muting is a key point to remember when you're playing any bass in any style. I would get a metronome to find the rough tempo that you're comfortable with, to do that. Don't try and do more than you can do at the moment. Just have a goal of whatever the BPM is, like 120 beats per minute is this. Now, it's a fair old tempo, that, and maybe that would be your goal, to play at 120. And if you can't, then just forget it for now. Just don't run before you can walk. Make sure all those mechanics that we're talking about, make sure the tone, make sure all that stuff is there at the slow tempo. I've mentioned it a few times this lesson already, and it is worth repeating. That's so important, to make sure that everything is solid at that slow tempo. Then it's just a case of kind of forcing yourself, not through a pain barrier, but just inching ahead every time, a bit quicker. You'll only get that once the coordination is there, the strength is there. You know, if you're especially new to bass or you're coming back after a long time away, you will have to build those muscles up, especially if you want to play funk and rock and, you know, faster sort of styles. One of my subscribers is taking my funk bass course, and there's a line that goes like this. Now that is hard, and there is a slide in there. Then this part is actually exactly the same, but up 2 frets. So the first thing, you know, if you were tackling a bass line like that, is just to make sure the techniques are down slowly. Might do that again. And then you're just building it up. It's about strength, it's about repetition, it's about being patient with yourself and building up from a really excellent foundation. Let's look at a hand shift with this exercise. Slowly. Do stick to the tab here because I want you to do a hand shift. So E's, G's and A's, or 3rd fret, 5th fret and the open string. That's the first bar. We are alternately plucking all the time there. Then it's 1st finger, 3rd finger, or you could use little finger for that 5th fret. Now the final 2 E's, that's an opportunity to shift your hand to then be hovering around the 5th and 7th frets, the A, B, D, E. And equally, the first 2 E's, after you've done that, gives you an opportunity to shift. Hand shifts are really important in bass playing. You know, going back to that funk line, the shift here. And there's kind of a shift down to there. And that section, it crosses all the strings, and that's where dexterity comes in. So I do think that pushing yourself to be able to play harder things is good, but try not to push yourself too hard because you'll just get discouraged after a while. You need a little bit of a progression. So if you find that you're playing stuff that you think, wow, this is actually really difficult, well, maybe you have to find some easier stuff, like these exercises played slowly. I mean, slowing down tends to do the trick, but it's hard to do because we all want to play fast. So a bit faster. Again, I'm not worried too much if I use my little finger, 1st and little instead of 1st and 3rd. And just trying to keep everything coordinated and smooth. Then we have this exercise, which is the hardest of the bunch. And this is, you know, how to work on stamina. Well, first of all, play your bass a lot. Play lines that require a bit of effort. If you ever feel any pain, especially in the muscles, tendons and wrists, then that's a signal to stop. Always, you must stop if that happens. Don't push through any pain barriers. But once you're starting to get a bit stronger, you can do exercises like this. You know, do this 5 to 10 minutes every single day, and soon enough, everything will start to work. This is it slowly. A bit slower. Constant 16th notes will really work on your strength and stamina. So it's these kind of exercises that will help you. Now, notice there I just played quite slowly. I mean, at this tempo, it's really hard. especially the D to the C. So don't even attempt that. Set your metronome to 90, perhaps, if you're using a metronome. If not, just work on this. Now, even at 16th notes, quite slow to release the C to an open string. And again, back down. This hand is just doing index middle the whole way. And this hand is not doing much with this finger either. It's the bringing it together, the coordination, that is the hard part. And your coordination and touch, a word I mentioned at the top of the lesson, that's really important to work on that. That's your, how these work together, and, all this kind of expressive techniques. We're not doing any in this lesson, but to add those in, that kind of relates to your touch. Let's slow it down again. Now look how my little finger, that's the one I'm choosing to use, it just got into position for the next section, even before it needs to be there. That's another aspect of this, is to have efficient technique with the octaves. Your longer second finger, it's already there. That finger is already there. You always need one finger in the future on each hand, really. Now, one common problem is usually one of the hands is a bit slower or a bit faster than the other. That's coordination. If you're finding that, what am I going to say? You know what I'm going to say. Slow it down. Just focus on it. Many people look at this hand. Don't forget this one. It's that thing of just being relaxed in the shoulders, in your whole body, not gripping too hard here, not playing too hard. You'll choke the sound. Nice and relaxed. If you are new to bass, if you are coming back to it, yeah, you'll get the blisters thing, but calluses will grow, and that will cease to be a problem, as will any little aches and pains if you're relaxing, if you're holding your bass properly, if you're not grabbing hold of it. We're also working on timing here. I'm tapping my foot, I'm nodding my head, and I'm feeling the 4 16th notes per beat. So you're always working on more things than you realise you are, so we are working on timing here as well. Then there are 2 more lines, and that's putting it together, so this sounds like a real bass line, I guess. And I've gone a bit rock for this. This is how it goes. Again, follow the tab exactly here. I usually don't like tab, although I often include it, but sometimes it tells you to play in an exact position, and here we want a bit of challenge in terms of hand shifting. So we're starting on the 5th fret, A, B, D, E, and then we have a rest and an E to move that hand down to first position. So A, B, D, E. Then we've got an E on the offbeat. At that point, a finger should be hovering over that G. And it's just chromatically down to the open E. I'm just going to cycle that bit round. So it's a shift here and it's a shift here again. When you shift, don't worry if you get a bit of a string noise, that's okay. And also sometimes it mutes the strings as well, if I didn't do that. And you've got to be a bit careful with fretting. I might just hold the strings to mute before I do the shift. And on the way up, when that E is ringing, I'm holding these strings to mute those as well. that kind of realization that your muting is or isn't working tends to come from recording yourself, listening back and hearing whether it's clean or not. So it comes back down to that recording thing again. Then we have the last one, very much a Rush inspired line here that goes like this. Anything 16th notes will require your fingers to move quickly, or certainly your fretting hand and your plucking hand. I mean, both of them will. So this is the first bit. That rhythm, 16th, 8th, 16th, is 3, 4. Da, da, da. Then we have a quarter note. Okay. Then same notes as before. Shifting to the C, and these kinds of hand shifts, they just have to occur smoothly and quickly in bass playing. So octaves on C with that same rhythm again. And it's a big shift all the way to the E string, 3rd fret, that's the G. And another shift. Here I'm not using a metronome, but it sounds in time. And that really comes from sort of keeping a rough tempo going, but having this in your head. Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. You know, subdividing, okay? Now just refine your technique, even film yourself, see what you're doing. I am resting here, but I don't want to be too locked here, because how do I get from the E string to the G? You know, you see what I'm doing here? I'm too locked. So here, I'm sort of pivoting about the thumb a little bit. I'm free to move wherever I want to. You know, you want to be completely free and not locked in place. That comes from exploring those proper mechanics that I hope I've talked about in this lesson. But it also comes from relaxation and I think having as light a touch as you can. You can dig in sometimes when you want, but the lighter your touch is, I think the quicker you tend to get. The action on this bass, which is a 1978 Music Man Stingray, is quite high. It's quite kind of hard to play. You could experiment with action on your bass to make it easier. Lighter gauge strings, 40 to 100, make it easier to play. This is 45 to 105, Elites. I love those strings. This is not a particularly easy bass to play this, and yet, you know, I can sort of fly around it a bit because I've worked on some of the things we've spoken about in this lesson. So you can download all of these for free down below, and I hope I've covered everything. I may have missed something. If I have, do leave a comment below if you have any specific questions. I can always do a follow-up, and you know, if you do want more technique-based lessons, make sure you subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.